Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit here, back again with Haikyuu Season 4. We are on episode 15, and in the last episode, it was kind of a mid-season premiere, if you want to call it that, because of the hiatus between the first half of the season and this second half. And I thought it came back very, very strongly. I was talking about how I felt the match so far is very well-paced. It felt like there was something new and interesting happening every single point. It never felt like it was like, points were coming out of sort of, like things that we'd seen before. I think I mentioned in the post discussion for last episode about how in Haikyuu they have those sort of, those animations that they go back to every so often. Like, for instance, Nishinoya receiving, I think, was one of the things that, is sort of just an asset that they used every now and then, because you don't need to, animate everything new and fresh all of the time. A lot of the time when it comes to just straight up receiving something, you might as well just reuse that asset. But I feel like in terms of last episode, that like there was always something new and interesting happening, and it was just paced just very, very well. I just really enjoyed it. Of course, the title of the episode for last episode was Rhythm, which obviously alluded to the sort of the band playing in the audience and getting on on Karasuno's nerves, and they're on Inarizaki's side, and then Sayako with the MVP for the episode comes in clutch and gives it back to them with this sort of like traditional Japanese sort of calming tone with like an offset rhythm that kind of basically dampened the other side's music playing, which basically it just set the tone right so that it's basically all down to what happens on the court, and it means that those from the stands aren't affecting the game too much. So yeah, really, really cool. It allows it for this match to be something a bit different. I was talking about that as well, about how it feels like, I feel like with especially a sports anime where you're obviously playing the same sport all the time, that to try and keep things sort of fresh in a way, you know what I mean, to add new things and different dynamics, and obviously the audience and the band playing is one of those dynamics. But even without that, like, it just feels like this matchup is just really something different and very special, I feel like, because previously the audience themselves in other matches weren't as, I feel like, involved, you know what I mean, like it felt like almost the court itself was like its own space, like it was away from the audience. It rarely felt connected. Of course, you went back to like certain characters to get their insight and stuff, but in this one, it's like, and I don't know if this is obviously in tandem with the change, obviously, in art style and the animation from the manga, right? Is like that's where obviously where they've changed the art style so it fits the manga better. But it just feels like everything is drawn bigger. Like everything is like, it's like the audience is all always like in shot almost, it feels that way. So whether that's just obviously where they've decided to go with that original art style, and that is what has allowed this to be the case, then I'm absolutely fine with it, because I feel like it just feels more alive, so yeah. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on and get into episode 15. So yeah, same as always, the actual reaction will be down here. It'll be transparent, but if for whatever reason in the future it gets taken down for copyright, I will remove that reaction from here and it will go onto my website. So if that is the case, link will be in the description below for it. But for basically forever, there'll be a link to the full length down there as well. So if you want to watch this episode reaction in full, then you can do. The offer is there for you. So yeah, that is all I've got. So yeah, without further ado, we're just going to get straight into episode 15, see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 15, and yeah, what a way to end it. I mean, that means we can just come back next episode, and let's see if we can just carry on this just momentum of Yamaguchi. I've noticed that when he comes in, generally it is towards the back end of the set, when it like hits the 20 mark, because they've brought this up before where like the idea of like being the first to get to 20, because that's when like the momentum kind of shifts. I feel like the reason why, like, even though, like, for example, if two teams are at 19 and 19 and like the team that gets the point to 20 even though it's still just another point, I feel like it has the same sort of effect as, for example, you know, if you go to a shop, and I don't know how much this happens anywhere else in the world, but in Britain, like, things will be £1.99 or £2.99 instead of being £2 or £3. You know what I mean? Because the idea is that it's a marketing scheme to kind of to make it not seem as much because the numbers are less. Like £1.99 versus £2 is only 1p, but it seems like so much more when you decrease the pound value, because that's obviously the thing that is the most. So I think when it's the first team to reach to 20, all of a sudden they have a 2 instead of a 1. You know what I mean? So it feels like they're much closer than they actually are, even though it's a point away. So I feel like when you put in because it keeps putting in Yamaguchi at that moment in time, it's like a perfect time to sort of gather the momentum going forward, because obviously a pinch server is supposed to come in there to get multiple points, you know what I mean, and get them quick and you know and whatnot, and they're supposed to be like a sort of, you know, a reliable team member and somebody who can like really pile on the pressure on the other team. You know, so I feel like, even though I wrote down that it seems as though they're interchanging Yamaguchi and Kinoshita, I feel like that isn't the case, more so than they just put in Kinoshita first. You know what I mean? As like, kind of similar to how you would in real sports, where like if you have like a youngster coming through in the first team, you would put them in, not like full matches obviously, but you would like sort of put them in games every so often, so that their experience in the in that actual setting obviously increases, and eventually they become good enough to, you know, to start more. But you know, yeah, I feel like it's almost on this pattern that like when it gets to a certain point, like, you know, 20 points in a game and it's close, or you need to make up the gap, Yamaguchi tends to go in at that time. Also, what I want to say as well, like, I didn't obviously mention this in the pre-discussion, but yeah, I was told that this episode was outsourced because of COVID. So the animation and art style in this episode is slightly off. I did notice it. I didn't want to bring it up because at the end of the day, you know, I feel like if you're complaining about that, then realistically you need to, you know, kind of get a grip. Because, I mean, let's be honest, right? Shit happens, right? And it wasn't that bad. So, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it did its job, did what it needed to do. Of course, some things looked off a bit, but that is to be expected. You know what I mean? We can't have everything go on as normal as it seems when, you know, when we had this fucking worldwide pandemic happen. So, you know, anyway, with that out of the way, let's get back into it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, keeping with Yamaguchi before we end off on that bit, you know, the fucking blocking of the emergency exit sign, the sheer inconvenience of that one moment to just be to block the one thing that he needs to look at to concentrate on, so that he doesn't, you know what I mean, he doesn't completely like fall out of rhythm and completely lose himself, was gone. And the fact that Shimada saw that, it must have saw, like, the only like way this could have happened is that Shimada saw that Yamaguchi was coming on. This couldn't have happened like when Yamaguchi was getting ready to, like, you know, he couldn't have started his run there. He had to have seen, oh, Yamaguchi's coming on, look over at the emergency exit sign, realised it's blocked. He was like, shit. he must have pelted his way around the other side to hold up. I mean, thank God he had the bag, because, you know, the plastic shopping bag that he used as a reference for, you know, something that, you know, was there when they were training, as opposed to obviously being in a you know, this massive stadium or a gymnasium, whatever it may be, where there's an emergency exit sign. That he had fucking hell, it's like these episodes, it's just like the MVP in these past two episodes have been somebody in the crowd. You know what I mean? The episode 14 was Saiko, and in this episode it's Shimada. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's like they're trying their hardest alongside the team, and I love it. I love it. I wouldn't care because in the the pre-discussion I talked about how like the both the bands are sort of equaling each other out. They're dampening each other's sound so that it just comes down to on the court. But like those moments, you know what I mean? Like that point could win us the set because he, legged it around the other side of the stadium so he could like hold it up for him. I love it. It's so heartwarming, dude. Like I love the fact that Shimada is this. He's like the one person in the crowd that almost has like a connection in the actual game because of his connection through Yamaguchi. So everything that goes through Yamaguchi is like all of a sudden, all of like, you'll find the insight comes from Shimada, or you see the reaction more of Shimada because he's that sort of, you know what I mean? He's the mentor of Yamaguchi. So like it's just so heartwarming to kind of see that like that relationship there, because especially with Yamaguchi, man, because like not even just in the volleyball aspect of it where he's a pinch server and therefore he has the like he has all that pressure on his shoulders to perform that could end up just being over in one shot. Like he might not even get there. It's the only that's his only play of the game is serving. So it's like he's alone a lot of the time, you know what I mean? And you've got but he's not really in spirit because Shimada is always like sort of there with him. And the fact is like even off the court when he's not in that sort of volleyball thing, like even when we met him and like for the longest time, obviously it was always like Tsukishima and Yamaguchi, but Yamaguchi was always like sort of like it felt like he was like just backing up sort of Tsukishima in a way, you know what I mean? Like it never felt like he was his own person, but like I feel as though in this season in particular, like he's kind of really come into his own. Like I know that he's obviously I'm talking about specifically sort of as a whole. Obviously on the court, he's done some amazing things. Like obviously against Seijo in the second match, and then Shiratorizawa. You know what I mean? But I feel like as a whole, as like a sort of like a person, like he's come very far. So you know what I mean? His sort of development hasn't been as like I suppose what you would call hard hitting as what like Tsukishima's was, for example. But it's been very slight and steady. Tsukishima's was very much like, like it was like a flat line and then just poof, and it just, you know what I mean, it rose significantly like in season 2 and season 3. I feel like Yamaguchi's has been like a very steady, like gradually just getting up and up and up, you know what I mean? And like we've finally reached a point, I feel like in season 4 where he is that like kind of guy that is becoming reliable, like a reliable member of the team. But like I said, even off the court, it felt like he was sort of like you had the characters, and then Yamaguchi was sort of like off to the side, and he was doing his own thing. He had to go, he had to keep going to the store where Shimada worked at in order to do this training. You know what I mean? It was never training with the other guys. He was basically alone, and it was with Shimada. So yeah, I mean, I know I've been talking about obviously this subject right now a lot, but I feel like it deserves to be mentioned because Yamaguchi is not alone. He has Shimada there, always watching him, and that connection through those two, anytime Yamaguchi comes onto the court, it's fantastic. It's great. Like, I just think it's very nice character writing, between the two. So yeah, Shimada, MVP, love it. So yeah, I mean, other than that, yeah, so I guess we could kind of stick with the similar thing with Kinoshita, right? So he's obviously the other jump float server that's starting to sort of work his way into the team gradually because he's also learning jump float serves. And obviously when Yamaguchi obviously got his point, Kinoshita didn't before. Kinoshita's sitting there going like, oh fucking hell, like I can imagine like it's gotta be tough because Yamaguchi is ahead of him in terms of experience and everything like that. So how does Kinoshita like overtake that position? That position's very niche. It's not something that can be just like, I feel like, overtaken in a way. But I feel like that's why Coach Ukai is kind of like putting him in there, in certain moments of the game where it's not dire. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you wanted to make up the points or get ahead, you would put in Yamaguchi. But if it's like sort of, like a tie game and like it's very close, then you can put him in at those points, because he's kind of not totally ready yet. Maybe in those games where the opposition is not as good, like in those games, he can get more time to get that experience that he needs in games. But yeah, I mean, I felt like his jump float was really good. Like, it swayed a hell of a lot, you know what I mean? And it was just that libero that managed to, receive it with one arm, which, for a jump float serve to receive with one arm is very, like, you could even go as far as to say is like there was a bit of luck involved. But I won't say that, because at the end of the day, they are second favourites to win the whole thing. So, there has to be skill involved as well. Like, not, but there's always luck involved in sports at any level. Like, even if you're at the top of, in the Premier League in football or anything like that, there's still luck that goes into certain things. So, not everything is down to skill, but, it's a mixture of both. You have to put yourself in a situation to be lucky, and that's what the libero did. So, using his experience, he put himself in a position to be able to receive the ball, and there may have been a little bit of luck that it didn't sort of sway off to one side at that moment. But he has that experience to be able to put his arm in a place where he thinks he's going to receive the ball best. So, I'm not having to go to the libero, don't worry. It's just, I'm just talking about I guess the logistics of what was going on. So it's not that Kinoshita's jump float was bad at all, is what I'm saying. It's just that it ended up being a case where, they received the ball, came back, got a point. Kinoshita was back off the court. Yamaguchi came on, he got a point. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it's I just feel it's really cool with that whole sort of, jump float sort of group you've got going on. I don't know if I can't remember if in the first half of the season if we saw Kinoshita working with Shimada or not, but like it's this interesting thing where you have like these like player coaches in a way. It's like Yamaguchi can now give that give all of that training and practice and everything that he learned from Shimada and give it over to Kinoshita, you know what I mean? So it's just passed down. It's good, it's really good. Yeah, so the weirdo quick, obviously, in Arizaki you can do it now, and whatnot, but Suki came and blocked it, which I thought was a really cool. There's a lot of like cool little sort of things that almost callbacks to the very first couple of seasons, you know what I mean? Like, the fact is that the weirdo quick was something that was primarily just season 1, really. I mean, obviously it worked its way into season 2, like, the very beginning. But then, obviously, at the very beginning, they basically said that they have to change it up, and that's when they changed it up, and it wasn't the weirdo quick anymore. And it was it was primarily a season 1 thing, and like if you go back to that season, it's like that was when Suki wasn't in it at all, and it still reigns true to this day that like they still have that sort of like like enemy sort of thing going on between Suki and Kageyama and everything, and that reigns true with Hinata as well. So it's kind of like just bringing back that whole thing that like Suki managed to block that quick, you know what I mean? Which is it's like a big deal. It's like it's weird. It's weird because it's a big deal, but it's a big deal for the game. But like just that like sort of I guess emotional tie to everything that was going on in season 1 back then. That kind of just is a nice link, I feel like. So that was really cool. And then obviously, tied with that, it's interesting that back to back we had Suki block the weirdo quick, which was obviously like feeling it like it was like an opposition, something that Suki really wanted to do against Kageyama and Hinata. And then back to back, like with that, you had Kageyama setting for Suki, and an amazing like little just setup like combo thing that they had going on there, which is just like a high set that got above the block, and Sugi's he's tall enough to be able to pull that off and just smash it, a proper smash attack. Really cool. That specific moment in time of the episode, I felt like was just like a really cool, like, this is what was, this is what's now. You know what I mean? It's like just really good writing, I feel like. So yeah, other than that, Inarizaki are the foxes, apparently. I don't know if I've ever picked that up before. I may have done. You see, that's the problem when you have, like, half a season earlier on in the air, and it's just like sometimes you just forget about them. But yeah, apparently they're the foxes. So there's that. Yeah, another callback from season 1 is basically because they have to go up against the Weirdo Quick themselves. They have to put themselves in the shoes of the people that managed to block the Weirdo Quick, and so again, just the callback to season 1 where it's just like it's who managed to block it. Inoka was one of them for Nekoma. Aone was another, but because obviously Hinata's sort of style of play best, in comparison, it's Inoka's, right? It's like that sort of style of play where it's like unlimited energy, really fast, and and athletic, agile. So he has to basically copy what Inoka was doing. So yeah, it's just really, really cool. It's like for moments in the game, it's just like, it's like, right, they have to play it against themselves in a way, you know what I mean? Because no one else was ever going to do the Weirdo Quick, and then all of a sudden now it is. It's almost like they're playing against their own attack. So it's just a really cool sort of dynamic. So yeah, the Hinata's sort of lack of power. So yeah, I talked about this a little bit in the in obviously the reaction. The idea that Hinata is very, he's short and he doesn't really have much of an athletic build. You know what I mean? He's built to be fast and agile. That's what his whole thing is. And because of that, it's not going to be a case of him ever really being able to outstrength an opponent unless they are themselves, like, unless the opponent themselves is as small and I don't want to say weak, but as him in a way. You know what I mean? It's just like he's never going to be able to do that unless there's a way. Like they called it a joust in the subtitle, so I'm guessing that's what the name of it is. When when each side of the net, one opponent, they're pushing on the ball. I'm guessing that's what they call a joust. Unless there's a way in the joust to sort of use technique more than just pure strength, but I don't see how that would be possible, because you're both hitting it at the same time. I don't think there's any way to kind of maneuver the ball at one side, and I don't think that's possible. So I don't know, unless you could maybe push the ball at one side more than the other. I don't know. It'd be tough, I feel like, to just use straight up technique to win a joust battle like that, other than just pure strength. But let me know if you know. Other than that, yeah, they had the loss in the crowd. Again, it's like a callback, but it's not a callback to this is only a callback to season 3. With the loss in the crowd thing, that was a really cool. I remember that shot. That one's like really vivid in my mind, which is why I remembered it straight away. I'm pretty sure it was the last shot of the Shiratorizawa game. I might be wrong in that regard, but I'm sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was, because it was like there was a clear perspective shot from the side of the court where you had like Asahi or somebody like run very close to like camera, and he overtook it and everything, and then you had like somebody else behind him, and they were all at different sort of distances from the net, I suppose, on a sideways shot, and like out of the crowd, like Hinata was like the camera came into view of Hinata, and it's like, oh shit. And it was an interesting shot because it was the idea that like only we got that view. I mean, I guess like Coach Ukai and that probably got that view as well, like, but it must have worked in, not in just the perspective obviously we were looking at, because we know that it worked, but the perspective of in front, like the other side of the net. They couldn't even save either, you know what I mean? But it's more that thing of just like a synchronized attack where it's, you know, who's the ball like who is the ball that, you know, who's it going to, you know. But yeah, that one obviously was very vivid in my mind, so yeah, I remembered that one. The interesting one actually was the you know, I guess another callback is the annoying blocker thing, which, you know what I mean, like Hinata had to like put on as like, right, you know, think about the most annoying blocker that I have to face. Basically means that he's putting himself in like the position of Osamu or whatever, and basically saying like, right, well, you know, he's not going to like this kind of block. But I remember now because I had to look up his name because I couldn't remember, but it was one of the third years for Seijo. I remember that it was Matsukawa Ise, I believe, which basically when they were doing the quick back in season 1. The whole idea that they had was, alright, well, don't really block him then, or force him down a line, you know, a line shot essentially, so that the ball can only go one way, and then set up the libero on that, you know, on that sort of trajectory, so that it would come straight to him. You know, so yeah, I remember that. It was when he said it, it really, like, I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't recognize the voice, anything like that. You know, and I was like, well, who is that then? Because, like, in my mind, right, I'm, like, flicking through all of the, you know, the blockers, obviously, that he's looking at on the screen, and I'm just like, yeah, well, it's going to be one of them. And because, obviously, it ended up on, what's-his-face? The weirdo dude who plays Shiratorizawa. Can't even remember his name. Because it was that long ago. God knows. Season 3 and everything like that isn't even in this book anyway, so I don't even know why I'm looking. But anyway, yes, I wasn't expecting him to be the annoying blocker, but I guess because it isn't blocking him straight, it's not like he's actually trying to block Hinata's shot. It's just he's just trying to force it down a trajectory into like a short, you know, a short lane in a way, which obviously annoys Hinata because he wants people to actually try and attack him, not try and force him away. You know, so yeah, and obviously they were talking about as well, like keeping it fresh, like the reason why they're sort of, I think it was, is it the Japan national team coach or someone like that, I think, because he was at the youth team camp. I think he was talking about it, like exposition a bit, and talking about how it's actually in Arizaki that's like trying to sort of keep up a bit with Karasuno, because Karasuno are being like they're being incredibly unpredictable in their sort of the ways of attacking. Everything that they've done has been something completely different every time, which you know, I've been watching Blind Wave's reaction to Haikyuu, so I'm not sure. I think it must be in season 2 where they went up against Seijo obviously for the second time, and then Kochukai was like, right, we've used up all of our sort of, you know, shock attacks, so there's no more surprises. Now it's just like trying to outbattle them. And I wonder if in this match it's going to be like relatively the same. But yeah, I think I said at some point during the reaction that it's going to be like the other sets that's going to be tough. This set, I feel like, I don't know who's going to win, man, because I just feel like it's been so close for the entire set. I know that, like, you know, in Arizaki's pulled away a bit, like they keep, it's like they keep pulling away a point at a time and everything like that, but it's been so close, and it's just like, you know, Karasuno being able to do this because they're pulling out all of these different attacks and everything like that, but then it's just like, well, it's going to be one of those things where once you get into the later game, it's going to have to be more strategic, you know, and less about shock and catching them off guard. I mean, I guess you're always catching them off guard, really, aren't you? That's the whole point. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, that's all I've got. Really, really enjoyable. Again, like this show is just it's got that sort of I don't know, it makes you feel a certain way, Haikyuu, and it's always, you know, it brings the mood up, you know, so it's always exciting to watch. So yeah, really, really, really cool. But that is all I've got, so thank you everyone for watching. In the description below I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you wish, and I also have a Patreon page as well, so if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, like early access for $5 a month. That gives you access to shows a week early. So yeah, there's that. There's also the full length tier if you want to watch any of my reactions in full, and not just the cut 10-minute versions. And there is the exclusive tier, which gives you access to movie reactions and things like that. So if you want to watch my reactions to movies, then that's the tier for you. But that is all I've got, so thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.